You stupid bitch. Yeah, you're a stupid bitch. You stupid bitch.
Welcome to this week's episode of Stupid Bitches Say What, the Aussie podcast about everything and nothing but always with wine, with your hosts Sean Hipkins and Sky Lee Collett. This week's theme is pop culture, our fave.
Listen in while Sky demonstrates her enthusiasm for the iconic movie Dirty Dancing. Ooh, dirty. And the man with all the moves, Patrick Swayze. May he rest in peace. While I discuss my love for the cult classic, the Rocky Horror Picture Show, the movie, the stage show, the soundtrack. What are you drinking, Sky?
Look, I am back on the wagon. I'm back having a little bit of a boozer. But I just want to say, I realised that I said our fave is pop culture, but that's not necessarily your fave, is it? Your fave's true crime, isn't it? Mine's the pop culture.
Well, yeah, I do love the true crime. I also do love the pop culture, though. It is a favourite one, and it's a favourite one with all our listeners.
I know,
Our first
it's
step
our
is the
favourite.
most listened to
It is the most listened to, yeah.
by a third.
Very excited about tonight's episode. But what I'm drinking, okay, is Carpenter Rocks. It's a Pinot Gris. Is that how you say Gris? Gris or Gris?
Gris.
Gris.
It's Gris.
Gris. Pinot
S
Gris.
is silent. Yeah.
S is silent. We
Pinot
do
Gris.
this every week, don't we? We're fucked. We know
It's a
nothing about
Grenache
wine.
or Grenache.
We've made like part of our podcast center around wines that we drink every week, and we know fuck all about drinking wine or pronouncing them or what they're made of or what types are what. We're just like,
Yeah, exactly. It's got a new name.
Yeah.
Technically, we wouldn't be what you'd call a wine connoisseur. But when it
no.
comes to drinking the wine, we're experienced.
We're very highly experienced, I would say.
Highly experienced.
But look, I'm drinking it with a bit of soda water. I tasted it first just to get a little bit on the palate before I put the soda water in. It's nice, a little bit woody again, because I'm easing back into the booze, just gently easing in there.
And look,
Baby
it's good
steps.
to see you back, I have to say.
Yeah.
And you're looking much more vibrant today too, which is lovely, and I'm happy for you and your recovery.
Put a little bit of lippy on, and I'm feeling much more vibrant.
Good.
So what are you drinking, Sean? Enlighten us.
Well, I've had this bottle for a while in the rack. It's one Vinny got me a while ago, but I thought I was saving it for a special occasion, and the name of it, I think, honors the fact that it is a special occasion to drink this during our pop culture episode. It's called Xanadu.
A little bit of Olivia Newton-John.
Xanadu. It's a 2019 Cabernet Sauvignon, of course.
2019. That's not your
Yes.
oldest, is it? You've had it.
No.
2019 is your vintagest year.
Was it 19 or 18 did I have one?
I can't remember. Mine's a 2021 again. I forgot to mention it's a baby.
Wine boom. It's a wine boom.
A baby.
But you know what? Like, I mean, the year doesn't really bother. It was definitely, obviously, at more than $20 because Vinny got it for me. Well, at least more than 15. But that would also attach the 2019 vintage to it.
We certainly would not be able to tell the year of the vintage if we were drinking it in the pub. We would have no fucking idea. Some people can know. Some people can taste it and know where it's from, but can they, or am I just making that up? Is it the berries that they can taste? Can they tell?
Well, they could taste the bouquet and the aroma and
that was specific to the year.
Yeah, I don't know if they can taste the year. They might be able to. I don't know. They've got pretty good fucking
We
palates,
certainly
these
can't.
people. I can taste whether it tastes like vinegar or if it goes down without giving me shivers. And this one doesn't give me shivers.
Do you know, just quickly talking about palettes, we've been watching a little bit of what's the guy that does the kitchen nightmares? I've forgotten his name.
Gordon Ramsay.
Gordon Ramsay. Oh my God, Tyler's been obsessed with it lately. So we've been watching a little bit, and it's a pretty good show. It's the first one he did, I think, which is the nightmares, where he goes in American kitchens. We're watching the American version, and he goes in
kitchen and stuff like that.
And it's crazy, these people who run these restaurants and the food and how terrible sometimes the food is. And I'm always like, oh my God, how the fuck do you run a restaurant and not know that your food tastes like shit? And Tyler's always giving me shit saying, you don't have the palate of Gordon Ramsay. What would you know anyway if you were running a restaurant and was tasting the food? You think everything tastes great. And I'm like, that's fucking bullshit, because I'm quite fussy, to be honest. Like, I think I have quite a refined palate, and I would know the difference between
refined,
shit food,
limited,
shit food and good food. I mean, I do love a zinger.
Well,
does that mean I have an unrefined palate?
Not really. You can taste the spice.
With gravy. I like the gravy too.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
nice. Yes. We've
digressing about palettes, but anyway.
Oh, look, pallets are back. People are making furniture and shit out of them now. We've been watching, as you know, American Crime Story Impeachment. Been obsessed with it.
I know this
and the heartbreaking thing is next week is the final episode, but this week was a corker. It was the grand jury episode where it had Monica going to the grand jury, and where they basically at the beginning are just talking to her like she's a slut.
Yeah.
Everything she did, but she wins them over, which I didn't know about, and they end up sort of sympathizing with her. But then Linda Tripp goes in and they just basically tear her to shreds. Poor bitch. Yeah, so next weekend's the last one. Next week, sorry, it's called The Wilderness. So very excited about it, but very sad it's not going to be gracing our screen anymore. Other big news, the Big Brother VIP started this week.
Oh, I know. I've tried twice to get into it.
Yeah, you couldn't.
Look, I'm loving the trash talk in terms of everything that Caitlyn Jenner's going on about. That she's dropped some big truth bombs. Whether or not they're truthful or not, I don't know. But because
do you mean about Trump or about her private life?
The OJ stuff for me, because I'm a bit infatuated with the whole OJ thing. And she said publicly, I believe that it's Khloe. No, didn't she say Khloe's OJ's daughter? She reckons that it's not Rob Kardashian's daughter. This is what I heard. I could be wrong. I can't actually. She didn't say it on Big Brother that where I was watching, but this is what I've heard in the media, that she's publicly come out and said that Khloe is OJ's. Yeah.
So what? Kim slept with OJ?
Not Kim. Chris.
Oh, Chris.
Chris slept with OJ. But remember how in the OJ series, the Ryan Murphy one, the People versus OJ,
American Crime Story.
Yeah, they were talking about, the friend brought out the book. The one who was played by Connie Britton, she brings out the book and she talks about how pretty much basically Nicole in the show, she brings out a tell-all book and she talks about how much cocaine they used to do and all the crazy parties that they used to do, whether it was true or not. At the time, the trial was just starting up. Right. And they talked a lot about swinging, and they had lots of swinging parties and stuff like that. That was all in her book. Again, I think it's a lot of skepticism there about the truth of where she was coming from, because she was just out of rehab when she wrote it, and people questioned her motives.
It's a good time to write a book, I say.
When your friends just died, had been brutally murdered.
And you've just come out of rehab. Yeah.
But whether or not it's true or not, I just I think it's quite interesting.
That is interesting. Well, I've enjoyed it, but I'm a reality fan.
I know you are.
Except for building shows, not into those ones.
No, I can't handle them.
Yeah. No, but I've been enjoying Big Brother. Danny from last season, who didn't win, but was one of the greatest players of all time. He's back now into it. He's one of the new house guests. Did you watch it last year?
From Survivor?
No, from Big Brother last year.
Oh, no, I didn't watch it.
Earlier this year.
Do you know who I did actually quite like, which was surprising because I really can't stand Kyle Sandilands, is his girlfriend. She went out with him for 10 years. And when she's in the limo, when she rocks up, she's like, I've already had 2 shots of tequila and it's not enough. And then she gets in there and she's like, I'm not drunk enough for this. And I'm just like, she's cool. I like her. I like her a lot.
And she says at the beginning too, look, you've got to have a thick skin to date Kyle.
Yeah.
Jesus.
For 10 years, I think she dated him too.
I think 8 years officially or something. Oh. Yeah. But she also said recently in the latest step, I think, the reason why they broke up is he wanted to still do work and get fame, and she wanted children.
To settle down, because she lives on a farm on her own with animals and shit. Yeah.
But she's also not ruled out. Actually. She's also not ruled out of them getting back together.
Well, hasn't he got a new girlfriend and he's talking about having a baby with her? I thought I saw it in the news last week.
If that's true, that'd be a kick in the fucking guts, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I thought I saw something.
It just weren't mother material for Kyle.
Considering having a baby. And what about Meghan Markle's brother? What a snake he is.
It is so gross. He's actually getting a bit of shit from the other housemates too. Oh, you wouldn't have seen, they did the whole interview session with Kyle. No,
I didn't see it, but I read about it. So sometimes I read all the articles. I might not watch the show, but when it's a little bit juicy, I like to read about it. So I did see that the other housemates had, sort of went, bad taste,
Well, basically like, dude, it's your sister, And who's that guy? The guys, they're from Nova FM up here. They come on after Sally from Home and Away and fucking
Whipper. No, not Whipper.
Fitzy and Whipper. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
So they went into the show last week and they interviewed them all individually, and the other housemates got to see, and they actually really put the questions on them, like the hard ass questions. They asked Caitlyn all about her stuff with Trump and Chris, and they asked Thomas Markle all about his sister and the history behind that, and they don't go easy on him either.
And she's running for the governor of California, isn't it?
Caitlyn,
that's what she's running for. Based on what? What qualifications does she have to enable her to be governor?
As much as fucking Arnold Schwarzenegger had.
I guess.
And she's got Trump's team behind her.
Ooh. Yeah, right.
That's a little ding from the Xanadu glass.
Is it red? You didn't mention, is it the Xanadu red?
Is, yeah, Cabernet Sauvignon.
It's the Cab Sav. Sorry, you did say that. I remember now.
You know that.
I know. I was a bit worried about the reds. I thought it might be just a little bit too heavy for me. That's why I've gone the whites. Yeah.
Nice. Good choice. Wise. And soda water and red probably. I guess
no.
You could have a fucking Moscato or whatever it is. And have you seen that other show that's been on, that the parental guidance?
Yes, I've seen a few articles about it, but again, it's too fart sniffery for me. Do you know what I mean?
I thought the same thing, and then I started watching it just because I wanted to give my recording of Big Brother a half-hour buffer so I could fast forward through the ads. So I started watching Parental Guidance, and I'm now recording that as well and watching it. It's fucking interesting.
Yeah.
Like, the only thing I'm interested about is like they've got all these different sets of parents who all have their own technique, and they're all labeled a technique. So you've got the attachment parents, which is the ones who say, oh, you might call it a tantrum, I call it big feelings. Don't hit your sister, Joey. I know you're angry, that type of shit.
You've got the free range ones.
Yes, you got the fucking strict ones.
Yep.
And all that stuff. And it's just interesting. And then they do little challenges where the parents have to give control to the kids to do stuff. Like get them to another destination in the car and shit like that. And it's interesting to see the way the different parenting techniques come out. Yeah.
Kids are all round naughty most of the time, right? Like, doesn't matter what kind of parent you are, you really can't control them. There's techniques that you can use, but they're unpredictable. So I do find the concept interesting. However, I hate all those shows. I just hate how they, focus on tragedies in their life and make everyone cry and all that sort of stuff.
It hasn't done that. It hasn't done that. Like, it hasn't gone into the backstory of, Joey was the cancer survivor, or, and I lost my job and we had a car crash. There's none of that stuff. It's just literally, this is our parenting style. Come in and have a look, and all the other parents get to judge it.
Because there's two dads as well, isn't there? And
they're a fan favorite at the moment. Yeah. Then they've got the two dads have two sets of twins that were born on the same day.
Oh, but obviously years apart.
The same year, same day. So what happened was
they've got 4 children.
Yeah.
Two sets. So they got 4 kids at the same day.
Yeah. So what happened was they went for surrogacy through India, because that was the only option they had at the time. Well, not India wasn't the only option, but getting children getting surrogacy outside of Australia was the only option at that time because it was illegal. They and they went through it, and they had a pregnancy, and they lost the baby through a miscarriage. And they get quite emotional talking about this, the fathers. And then the agency had said to them, you know, why don't you, for this next one, get 2 surrogacies? And they're like, well, God, we don't want to end up with 2 twins on the, you know, coming out of this successful. And they're like, look, that's never going to happen, but blah, 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 it just increases your odds. And not only did they get the 2 twins, but they got them on the same fucking day.
Oh my God. So that's insane. How did they cope with that?
So that their parenting style is routine. Parents. Is all based on routine and shit like that. It's all like, okay, 8 o'clock, we all eat dinner at the same time. We all go to bed at the same time. We all get up at the same time every single day to instill this routine that they can actually all do shit. So do the kids lose their individuality a little bit through that, I guess? But that's what they sort of discuss. It's really interesting. Give it a crack.
And how old are the children?
The kids are now about 9, I think.
Holy and so moly. Yeah. And so do they have their genes? They don't go into that.
No, actually. But both sets of twins look different. Like they're identical twins, but both sets look different, obviously, but like significantly different. So I don't know if their fathers, I guess so.
Yeah.
Maybe they put the baby batter into a fucking blender.
Maybe they did one each.
Yeah. Did one each, see who had the strongest swimmers.
Well, that is really interesting. Okay, I'll check it out.
Give it a crack. All right. So shall we get into our pop culture discussion?
Yes, please. Let's do it.
Take it away, Sky.
Because it's my turn. I'm going first.
You're first.
Okay, so I'm super excited about this. I'm doing this week. I'm going to talk about Dirty Dancing, and I'm going to parlay that into a bit of a Patrick Swayze discussion. So this week, as research, I also watched Ghost. So whilst the topic is really specific to Dirty Dancing, I will touch a little bit on Ghost as well.
Getting the feel for Patrick Swayze.
Yeah, I thought, you know what? Let's just do it. It's all on Stan at the moment too, all the old 90s movies.
Oh, wow.
And I just want to start by saying they really don't make movies like that anymore. And Link actually came and sat with us. So Link is my 15-year-old son, for people who don't know. So he walked in about 10 minutes into Ghost, and he'd actually seen, and I'd made him watch it when he was a bit younger. But he was like, I know this movie. And he sat down, which is very rare for him to sit down and watch a film with us. And he sat down and watched the whole thing. Yeah. And even at the end of it, I just said to Tyler and Link, I was like, they just don't make movies like this anymore. And Link was like, yeah, Mum, they really don't. It's all just superheroes and shit like that these days. They really don't make movies that have that kind of storyline anymore, because you've seen Ghost, right?
I have, yeah. Many years ago. I'm more up to speed with Dirty Dancing than I am with Ghost. Okay.
Well, I'm just going to say this.
You in danger, girl.
Yeah, I know. Whoopi Goldberg is fucking the bomb diggity in that. She's so amazing. But it's such a satisfying ending. Now, I don't know if you remember. So his friend betrays him, and Tyler picked it immediately from the very beginning. He goes, that's the bad guy. He does it all the time. It's really annoying.
That's what, you know how you said they don't make movies like they used to anymore? They don't, but they also have gotten a bit more clued up to make it a bit more trickier these days. Yes, like it's not just a standard.
And look, the special effects for Ghost weren't amazing, I have to say. They're definitely very, very dated. Dirty Dancing, on the other hand, doesn't have a lot of special effects, so it was perfection.
Of course.
But Ghost had special effects that at one moment Link and Tyler were both wetting themselves laughing.
Is that where the ghosts were dragging him down into the
favorite part? And that's what I was going to say. It's such a satisfying end to a movie, because that guy is so bad, his best mate, and everything that he does, and then for him to go to hell. You know, we were talking last week about consequences for murderers and really, really bad, evil people, and it's just, we talked about the death penalty, and we talked about the fact that it's not very fulfilling when people just go to jail for the rest of their life. It seems like sometimes that's not enough. For this movie to see them dragged to hell by these evil monsters, as crazy and as far-fetched as it was, I found it to be quite a satisfying ending. I was like, I love this part. I love it. They're so bad. They deserve to go to hell. I digress. So I'm not going to talk about Ghost anymore. I just wanted to touch on that little tiny bit. So basically, I said to Tyler, you have to watch Dirty Dancing with me one night this week. Otherwise, you're just going to have to do something else while I watch it. So I can. Plus, I haven't been well, so I use the whole I'm sick. Watch this movie that I love with me.
Stay with me.
So he watched it. Ultimately, thank you, Tyler. I promised that I would give him a shout out on the podcast and acknowledge that he went through that with me. He wasn't a fan. He specifically said to me he thought there would be a lot more Dirty Dancing. And I was like...
It's not Dirty Dancing, Havana Nights, the sequel.
The prequel. It's actually a prequel.
Oh, prequel?
It is a prequel. But I said to him, what do you mean? There's so much Dirty Dancing. There's the bit where they go to the Sheldrake. There's the bit where they're in the, the staff quarters. That happens like 3 times. Like there's so much Dirty Dancing. I was like, you don't even know what you're talking about. Anyway, he said it was okay, but he didn't love it the way that, I love it. And I'll go through a few bits and pieces. Like I looked up a whole bunch of things that you might not know about Dirty Dancing, but I basically saw this movie on holidays in 1988. And it came out in 1987, I think it did. And I think it came to Australia 1988. And right. So I was 8 years old, and I remember 11. We were on a family trip, and we went away on holidays. We were living in the Central Coast, and we went to Queensland, and we were with another family, and they had 3 kids that were with us, and we went to the cinema to see this movie, and the parents sat in one aisle, and the kids all went and sat up the back. And I remember watching it, and it was the most sexual movie I had seen in my life at the age of 8. And my sister was 2 years younger than me, so she was 6, and I remember just sitting there going, oh my God, like really too young to fully appreciate what was happening, but also thinking that Patrick Swayze was the hottest thing I'd ever seen, and that Jennifer Grey was just the coolest chick ever, but had really bad fashion choices.
Yeah, and she did carry a watermelon.
And she did. She carried a watermelon. Carried a watermelon.
Could I say something? Like I remember when it came out too, and how huge it was. It was fucking massive.
Huge.
And I remember my mum had the vinyl. And do you remember?
I have the vinyl also. I grew up the vinyl, yes. But
I know the K. It's the vinyl,
white. Have the yes.
And it's got the Dirty Dancing written in purple and pink, I think.
Such a great soundtrack. Yes. It was an amazing soundtrack.
I think we actually have the fucking vinyl. I think Vinny bought it actually.
My parents had it, and then Mum gave away all the records years ago, which is, I've spoken to you about how devastating.
Oh, yes. I know. My dad's done the same.
She told me to take them, and she actually rang me one time and I was hungover and said, come to my house and get all these vinyls. Otherwise, I'm actually selling them at the garage sale. And I was like, whatever.
Only if you bring me a Slurpee, Mum.
Yeah. Not realizing that she was actually serious, which she did. She sold them all, and it's one of the great regrets of my life that I didn't go get those records. I've spent my late 30s and 40s just trying to recreate that collection, but I have it now and I love it and I play it all the time.
And do you remember how big the song I've Had the Time of My Life was?
Oh, it was huge.
I remember
that whole album was huge. Every song on it's great.
I remember when I was a child, I used to listen in bed with the radio next to me waiting for, I guess there was always a certain time at about 8:30 that they played the I Had the Time of My Life song, and I'd just be in bed listening to it with the iPad. But then I remember after my parents got divorced, Mum playing the Dirty Dancing album.
Yeah.
And she was cleaning, and when she moved in with her now husband, John, she was cleaning the lounge room and I was dancing in the kitchen to the soundtrack. And I mean, literally throwing myself up against the fucking benches and jumping up and kicking my legs in the air and shit like that to it. Yeah.
Of course you
Such a special moment.
Look, me and my sister used to do dances to it all the time, and I totally was obsessed with that soundtrack for many years, and I still am. I still love it. I put it on when I'm cleaning the house sometimes.
Yeah, it's a good one.
So, yeah, it's insane. And I also just want to say that Swayze is just a fucking god. Like, for anyone, and to watch that movie and not think that he's just so exceptional. His moves and the way, he had dancing background. He was a dancer. Yes. His mother was a dance teacher. So he had grown up dancing, which you can tell. It's not put on. The way that he glides across, the dance floor and the stage and whatever is just insane.
He knows what he's he's doing.
That tiny little waist as well, like, that tiny little dancer's body. It was just, but
I've never had one of those waists.
I've never had one of those. I've never had a waist that small before. But not even when I was very young. But, he is just amazing. And it's so, so sad that he passed away. And just so that
Was he pancreatic cancer as well?
Yes. I'm going to read the specifics.
It's been a running theme in our fucking podcasts, hasn't it?
Yeah, hasn't it? It's just, it's so sad. So he was diagnosed with stage 5 pancreatic cancer in 2008. He was given 2 weeks to live. That's when he was diagnosed. He had just had a burning sensation in his stomach. The doctors gave him 2 weeks to live. He decided to embark on an aggressive experimental drug and form of treatment, undergoing chemotherapy.
If you've got 2 weeks to live, why wouldn't you?
Yeah,
it's not like it's going to shorten your life.
And look, I remember the time when I found out that he was terminal. And then I remember there was a little bit of hope around the fact that he might pull through, but also seeing a lot of photos of him looking quite frail and quite unwell. So he managed to last I think he managed to last maybe just over 12 months. And then he died in 2009. Sorry, 20 months. He lasted for 20 months from his diagnosis, and he was 57 years of age. It's just
it's so sad. And that gave him a bit more time to appreciate the last years of his life, fucking end a few things, mend bridges if he needed to. And
super sick. He would have been so sick during that time with all the drugs on it. It probably would have been very, very awful. But it's very sad because
he might have been able to say a few things that he didn't have the chance to say, and he wouldn't have had the chance to say in 2 weeks. You know what I mean?
And then just watching him in Ghost as well, like he just seems like such a massive presence. He's just such a commanding sort of actor, and I just think it's so great. It's just a little bit like Heath Ledger, Heath Ledger was such a legend, and then just
in their prime,
I still find it. I just can't believe that he's dead sometimes. Like I just think it's insane. But a few things about Dirty Dancing. We talked about this the other week, how invested I become in characters that I love. And I actually didn't know this, but that Swayze and Jennifer Grey hated each other. They couldn't stand each other. He wrote an autobiography.
But they had such great chemistry.
I know. And so first of all, Val Kilmer, they never actually offered any other actors the role. Patrick Swayze was the first person that they offered the role to, of Johnny in Dirty Dancing. However, Val Kilmer was the original pick.
God, and then it wasn't him.
Val Kilmer turned it down, and then Billy Zane was the second pick, the guy from Titanic. So he was the second pick, the second person that they were looking at and was testing with Jennifer Grey, but the chemistry wasn't enough. Patrick Swayze and Jennifer Grey had this amazing chemistry. And Sarah Jessica Parker tried out for the role of Frances Houseman, aka Baby. The director didn't want her because he wasn't impressed with her dancing skills.
I'm not sure how I feel about that. How I would feel if Sarah SJP was Baby.
I don't like it. I think Jennifer Grey all the way. She just, she never really done anything after that.
Yeah, but do you know why she didn't? Do you know what happened?
She got all the plastic surgery, and then she got a nose job.
She became unrecognizable, and they didn't want her anymore. She did go on to win a Dancing with the Stars in America, though.
Yes,
I
did know that.
In 2009.
But she also had to have, so what happened was she had all the rhinoplasty or whatever it's called on her nose, but it didn't take. So she had to get reconstructive surgery as well. So that's why she's unrecognizable, because she had heaps of additional surgeries after that. Well, that's the reason, I guess it's a little bit like Jackson saying that he had all that plastic surgery for medical reasons, whether or not that's true or not, but that's what it says online. So that's interesting.
Well, it must be true then.
It has to be, right? If it's there in print, it has to be. Yeah. So Swayze was a 34-year-old playing a 25-year-old, and Jennifer Grey was 26 playing 17.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
I never thought Baby was 17. I'm just going to say I always thought she was a fucking young adult that went on holidays with her parents. Like, and I
Yes.
thought she was 21 or something.
I know, because it's always a little bit yucky, isn't it, when they're not quite legal and then they're with an older person, because it's that predatory stuff. And but yes, you know, a different time, whatever.
And who was the blonde bird in it? I know you're not the one who got Penny. I know you're not the one who got Penny in trouble.
Cynthia something was her name, but Penny was the actor, the character. Yes. So in who, you know, got knocked up by the one who the sister was dating.
Yes. Robbie?
Robbie. It was Robbie. Yeah.
Tonight.
Yeah. And then he's rooting the chick who was putting all the money in the pockets of Johnny and really wanted Johnny.
That's right.
But also, this is the song that I wanted to play, but for copyright reasons we probably can't. She's Like the Wind was actually performed and co-written by Patrick Swayze. Do we know how it goes? True. She's like the wind.
She's like the wind.
To the trees.
She drives
the night next to me. Let's leave it at that. Just in case. She's taking my heart. She doesn't know what she's done.
Feel that breath in my face. I'd be like, get the fuck away from me if I could feel someone's breath in my face. Your breath stinks.
Also, so this is also in Patrick Swayze's autobiography, he struggled with some of the lines in the film and thought that some of it was rather corny. And look, after watching Tyler's face throughout it, Tyler would agree with a lot of that, because he was like,
It was the 80s. It was 40 years ago.
I know, right? That. But specifically, he really cringed at the "nobody puts baby in the corner" line, the iconic line of the film that everyone knows where that comes from. He really hated it, and he really didn't want to say it, but obviously did.
And it's hugely iconic. So I went and saw Dirty Dancing in London, the stage show. And the way they do it is like the main characters don't sing the songs. There's like a couple of people, narrators, I guess, who come in and pop in over the top and start singing a song or two.
I've seen the Aussie one. I've seen the Aussie station.
Oh, okay.
And I don't know the same thing. I think so. It's people go to summer camp. They do a play or something, I think, if I remember correctly. Or I think
because they've got the whole stage show that they're all working up to. But they also had Baby was in the audience. Oh no, Baby was on the table, and then Johnny comes bursting in through the back door in the crowd off his motorbike, and does the whole "no one puts baby in the corner," and the whole fucking auditorium just screamed. Yeah,
they would have went crazy when they did that, the Time of My Life song.
I think people were dancing and shit.
Well, I actually saw it. So we've got an old-fashioned cinema that's been restored, that's down the road, and they do cocktails, and you can actually sit in the cinema. It's bench seats, a massive screen, and they bring you food and cocktails.
Oh, cool.
Just sitting in there. Yeah, and they play old remakes. So the first film I saw there was Ferris Bueller's Day Off. The second film I saw was Dirty Dancing, and it was just before Christmas, and a friend of mine and we went there and got super, super drunk, and the whole cinema was just insane. And in the end, at the final scenes, there was people at the front who were super drunk, young kids, doing the lift, because there's like this whole runway in front of the screen, and they were all out there doing the lift, and everyone was dancing in the aisles, and it was such an amazing experience. But the whole way through, people talked. They just kept yelling out, which would normally be annoying, I think, if you were sober, because we were all drunk.
And you've seen the movie 100 times.
Yes.
It's not like, hang on, I'm missing out. What did you say? Don't put you in the corner.
So if you hadn't seen the film, you probably wouldn't have enjoyed it. But for everyone who was fans, it was so good. We had so much fun. So I talked about the fact that they didn't get along. Again, he refers to her in his autobiography as follows: "She seemed particularly emotional, sometimes bursting into tears if someone criticized her. Other times she slipped into silly moods, forcing us to do scenes over and over again when she'd start laughing." It just sounds like they had a bit of just rubbed each other a bit wrong. He seems to be very serious.
He was going to be annoyed by it.
Yeah, like he seemed to be taking everything very seriously and very, committed, and she was having a bit of fun, and they just really didn't didn't get along. But you know the scene where they're crawling in the studio where the nephew.
Yeah. Oh, what's the song?
Sylvia.
Oh, there's a song for that too. That's not Hungry Eyes, is it? No.
No. It's the Sylvia one. How do you call your lover boy? Come here, lover boy.
Come here, lover boy.
And if he doesn't answer, oh, lover boy.
But if he still doesn't answer,
I simply say, baby. So that one was actually Swayze and Grey goofing around between takes, and they were just sort of warming up, and they were having a bit of a sing and dance and stuff like that. And then the director filmed it and put it in the film. The same with when he's got the arm around her head and she goes down, she giggles. That was them trying to be serious and to practice the dance scene, and she couldn't stop laughing in real life. And the director decided to keep it in. And when he's annoyed with her, when Patrick Swayze's getting annoyed with her when he's doing it, he's actually getting annoyed with her.
Vinny is gonna love that because Vinny likes fucking Dirty Dancing.
Yeah. So I really liked that. I thought that was really good. But you can see like Patrick Swayze was the serious dad kind of thing, and she was just like,
24-year-old fucking having a bit of fun with the fucking fact that she's landed her first lead in a movie.
Yeah. So
was she in the? No. Do you know she was meant to be? I think
she was in Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
She was also meant to be in the Babysitter Club, but it went to Elizabeth Shue. Or Babysitting Adventures.
Babysitting Adventures.
A Night on the Town. I think they called it.
They had a couple of different names for that. I loved that movie.
Yeah. Same.
Loved it. With Thor, the kid was in love with Thor.
Yes, I was going to say Thor.
Yeah. He saves the day at the end.
Yeah, the mechanic that looks like Thor. She gives him a hammer.
Yeah. Loved that movie. We should totally just do a pop culture where we just do 80s movies.
Yeah.
But so it was actually a low budget film. It cost about $5 million to make it. Total, like when they got producers in later on, and they filmed it mostly in winter, so a lot of the lift scene in the water was done when they were freezing. That's why there's no close-ups of them at all when they're in the water. You notice it's all from far away.
Trembling.
Yeah, their lips are blue. And they had to replace some of the foliage and paint it with greenery and stuff like that to make it look more summery. It was getting really cold. And when the film was finished and it was in pre-production, they couldn't sell it. Like they couldn't get anyone to jump on board.
Wow.
They were relying on sponsorships. A lot of sponsors pulled their money because of the abortion scene, or the subplot that revolved around the abortion. They weren't happy.
How ridiculous is fucking that?
Yeah, and it's funny because we've watched a few programs lately where abortion is like Friday Night Lights and stuff like that. It's such a not hot topic. That's really not the right expression.
It's a prominent thing.
It really divides that country. Like how people feel that, and people who are against it, really are very against abortion, and
they're usually middle-aged white men.
It's a really horrible stance. I guess it's just a really difficult perspective. I think it's a horrible thing anyway. But anyway, without digressing, so a lot of people pulled their funding.
You think what's a horrible thing?
The whole stance on abortion and the fact that women don't feel, that they have reproductive rights. I think it's just it's really awful.
Yeah.
But we could talk about that if we go down that road. Yeah, perhaps. But anyway, so a lot of funding was pulled. Clearasil was one of a major sponsor. They were throwing some money into the movie. They weren't happy with it. A few other major supporters was like, no, we're not going to advertise with you.
Clear and Cream got to do
because they aimed at teenagers. It's a teenage market. So zits are for teenagers. Do you know what I mean? Like that's where it came from. So for a while there.
For teenagers, you're right.
It was, but predominantly, teenagers, especially a product like Clearasil. So a lot of funding was pulled for a while there. It looked like it was never going to see the light of day. It was never going to see the inside of a cinema. And then, surprise, they finally got someone on board and they managed to persevere and get through, and then it made like about $250 million, and then it made more money the following year from the soundtrack, because I've had the time of my life.
Huge.
won an Oscar for Best Song.
Yes.
So then it won even more money from that, and then the soundtrack just went off. And then when it went to
It is a
video,
fucking great song though, isn't it?
oh, the whole album. But then it went to video, and then the renter it kicked all these goals for renting from home. Like so many people went and watched it again and again, and I remember that. I remember when it came out, we were like, yes, it's out on video. Let's go get it
to fucking
video shop.
Well, it wasn't even Blockbusters, video these Easies or Shorty Pats. Get down their stat and get it on a Friday night, because remember how many times you'd always have to grab the video that was behind the video?
Yeah.
And then you'd go there and they were all just flat, just the one video deep. You're like, fuck. And you'd book them. With the nice
glossy pictures on them. Yes. And it just was such a horrible sense of, just disappointment, because they looked beautiful. It looked like the movie was there. There was
but the rental weren't there.
There was nothing behind it.
Or do you remember you'd book them? And then you'd go to get it because you'd booked it for the Saturday night, and they're like, sorry, the person the copy you've booked hasn't been returned.
It back. Yeah.
And then they wouldn't rewind it.
Yeah. Good old VHS days, mate.
Yeah. And Beta, please. We started off with Beta in our house.
We had Beta too. We started off with Beta. Beta was supposed to be the one that took over the world, but it didn't. VHS took over.
And the limited selection of Beta compared to VHS, when you went into a video store, it was just like, oh, for fuck's sake, you got to watch The Golden Monkey yet again.
So that's pretty much everything that I had to talk about when it comes to dancing. The only other thing was that it spawned a remake in 2017, and Abigail Breslin played one of the lead characters, and I didn't even know that existed. I am going to go on a bit of a track.
So it actually went through.
Yes, it did. It came out in 2017. There was a TV series spin-off. It had the chick. Have you seen The Office, the UK and then the US version of The Office? You haven't?
No, okay. But I know some of the people. Like Mindy's in it.
So the chick who Michael Scott goes out with, and it's the boss, and she gets the boob job. No, you don't know who that is? She was the main character in the TV series. I don't think you'd be able to track down the TV series, but you might be able to track down the movie. So I'm going to go on a bit of a mission this weekend to see if I can find it. But it was like
it's going to be horrendous, isn't it?
It would be, because they redid. Have you ever seen Overboard with Goldie Hawn and Kurt Russell?
Yes, and they did that with fucking Anna Faris, was it?
Yes. And that is one of my top 10 all-time favorite movies, the original Overboard. I fucking love that film.
Speaking of going to video shops, do you remember when Overboard came out and the case of it had the water and you could push it? Yes, yeah, it was like a pillow of water. Yeah, me too.
What about that too? You said that. But when I saw that they remade it with Anna Faris, I'm not a massive Anna Faris fan anyway.
See, I am. I thought she was great, but yeah, she didn't do well for me in that.
Sometimes you just don't need a remake, you know?
Yeah. Leave it in the 80s. It's an 80s themed fucking movie. It's not going to age well when it comes into the 2000s, when it's fucking a remake. It's not, you can't do that,
Yeah, so even if someone told me that remake of Overboard was good, I wouldn't watch it. But I don't mind Abigail Breslin. So I'm intrigued to maybe give it a little bit of a go and see what it's like. But the fact that I had to find out about it from researching it probably means it's not great,
doesn't
right?
stand well. Yeah, exactly.
So, there you go. So, Vincent, if you listen to this, I hope you're happy with my recollection of both facts and memories relating to Dirty Dancing, because I too
Double D.
love it. It's up there with one of my all-time favorite feel-good movies, and I can watch it.
Do you remember when after it came out, and then Swayze's, I think it was his next big movie after that, was called Roadhouse, where he was a bouncer at a club?
I thought Roadhouse was before it. I'm going to Google that.
Because I could be very wrong. But I remember my brothers hiring out Roadhouse, and it was more when Patrick Swayze was more butch than dancer.
Yes.
And apparently he saw his peen in a scene. And I
1989. No, you're right. It's 1989. So
just after,
1987 was Dirty Dancing. You're absolutely right. And then Ghost was 1990.
Yes, that was his comeback. Because Roadhouse wasn't that great. But I remember them saying he saw his peen in one of the scenes. So I just watched the whole movie in slow motion. Took me 7 days, but I got there and I didn't see his peen.
Oh my God, I didn't know that. But I don't remember loving it. Like
No, it
think
wasn't a great movie.
No.
But did you know, and he was also in and that I became obsessed with this movie when it came out, Donnie Darko.
I didn't know
With
it was
Jake Gyllenhaal.
I know the movie, but I've never seen Donnie Darko, you know.
He's like a life coach in it, and sort of tries to bring in all the spirituality to sort of make your life be so much better and stuff like that. But he ends up, I won't say anything, but yeah, no, I was obsessed with that movie just because of Jake Gyllenhaal. Ugh.
Look, I think we could spend a whole probably episode just on Patrick Swayze's filmology and just going through all the films that he's in, because we can't even go there, but Point Break, come on.
Oh, Point Break. Yeah, I forgot about that. He had a nice set of pecs on him, didn't he? And have you seen his brother has appeared in American Horror Story? Is it Roanoke?
I don't know which one it is, but he pops up in a lot of stuff. He's always like a little side character, supporting actor. He's just not as good looking as Patrick Swayze, is he?
He's a bit more Neanderthal.
Yeah, he just doesn't have the smooth lines. He's all chiseled and
harsh features, very harsh.
Yes, that's it.
All right, well, this is a good segue into my topic, because mine also has a fantastic fucking soundtrack. But we'll get to that. I may also need to invoke copyright rules on any of the musical productions I put in this segment, but it'll all be through my voice, of course. Now, I'm assuming you've seen the Rocky Horror Picture Show, right?
You know what?
Oh my God, I knew you were going to say this.
You and I have had arguments about this before, because I know how obsessed you are with it. And I think I've tried maybe and I normally love musicals, but I just couldn't I love Susan Sarandon, love her.
Yeah.
But I just couldn't really get into it.
Well, a fun fact before we start as well about Susan Sarandon. You know how you were saying about how they had to do they couldn't do close-ups in the cold scenes. But there is water scenes in Rocky Horror, and she was that cold, and I think there was no heating throughout the castle that they did the filming in. So she was that cold. She actually got pneumonia, but still wouldn't quit acting because she just wanted to get the scene done and the job done. So she did it.
Oh yeah, she's a boss.
She had fever chills and everything.
Sarandon, man. Yeah, I could see that.
Dead man walking. Dead man walking here. All right.
So many films, so many great films she's in.
So I think I was about 10 or 11 when I first saw this movie, but I was instantly obsessed. It was on TV.
It's much older than that. It's the 70s.
Oh, right? Yeah.
The 70s.
It is. It came out in 79.
Right.
75. Sorry, my bad.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say 77 for some reason. I thought it was earlier than 79.
Yeah. But yeah, I was instantly obsessed with it. It was the first movie that I'd ever seen that didn't feature heteronorm characters. It had edgy songs. A sweet transvestite was in there.
Yeah.
And it was really a movie that gave grounding for people who would have been considered outcasts and freaks and weirdos, really. So it was one of those movies that when they get to see it or the production, they're the cool ones. You know what I mean? It sort of represents them. Oh. While it was dark and completely sci-fi spooky, it was groundbreaking in its views of sex, love, and rock and roll, baby. The girls get sort of freaky with girls. The boys get sort of freaky with boys. Prudes break down their walls and give themselves over to absolute pleasure. It started out as a theatrical production that was written by Richard O'Brien, who actually plays the original Riff Raff, who's the sort of, I guess, like a hunchback character or a Quasimodo character in the show. And it's a tribute to the science fiction and horror movies of the 30s to the early 60s, sorry.
So it was theatre first, then it became the film.
Yes, so it premiered in theatre in 1973, and then it was made into a movie in 1975. And it gained a cult following for a generation of dreamers, and it actually went really from a cult happening to a full cultural marvel, really phenomenon.
Right. Cool.
Yeah. So a lot of the characters who played it in the stage show got to play their characters in the movies.
Oh wow, that's cool.
Except for Susan Sarandon and Barry Bostwick, they were American. So it's filmed in England, but it's sort of set in America, but they still had the English cast.
Right.
As a part of it, Richard O'Brien demanded that Tim Curry play.
Oh, I was going to say who played Frank-N-Furter. I forgot his name. Good old Tim Curry.
So just to give, before I go into my other stuff, I'll just give a general overview of the production. And when I say general overview, it's going to be pretty much what happens. So,
that's good for me because I have a very, very basic idea.
What about the soundtrack? Have you ever listened to the full soundtrack?
I think you've made me when we've been drunk sometimes. Yes. But yeah, I can't recall anything specific.
Well, we will have to revisit that.
Not in this episode. Sometimes with musicals though, because I'm a musical fan, your love of it comes from a place as a child though, and I think sometimes 100%. Introducing old musicals to an older person
can be hard.
It's quite hard because the songs come from a place of memories and
there's nostalgia. No nostalgia. Yes, yeah. Exactly right. Yeah, exactly. So the show starts off with the iconic red lips on the screen. Do you remember that?
Mm-hmm. Yes,
and that's the lips are of Magenta, one of the characters who's played by Patricia Quinn, and she's lip syncing the song Science Fiction. Ooh. And but it's actually sung by the show's creator Richard O'Brien, who's got a really high-pitched voice when he sings, and he also plays Riff Raff in the movie and all the productions.
Right.
The Hunchback guy, yeah, Riff Raff. So young straight-laced couple Brad and Janet, who's played by Barry Bostwick and Susan Sarandon, they get engaged after attending their friend's wedding. But before they wed, they want to go visit their old friend and former teacher, Dr. Scott, because he was the man who began it, Janet, when we met in his science exam it. Damn it. Do you know Damn It, Janet? Damn it, Janet, I love you.
Sky. No.
Sky. We're doing this together. When you come up here, we are watching this from start to fucking finish.
Did Vinny love Rocky Horror Show before he met you, or did you just make him become a fan?
I didn't make him. He just fell into it. He's seen the stage show a couple of times with me as well. But there's a part I'm going to get to after the overview that you will love.
Damn it, Janet.
Yeah, we'll be able to do it while we watch it. So during their drive to see Dr. Scott, a storm hits. They get a flat tire and they get out and walk to this nearby castle. Over at the Frankenstein place. So they go over there to try and use a phone and get their tire sorted.
There's so much singing in this episode. We've never sung this much.
I know. It's very,
this whole episode.
It's very melodical, this episode.
You might have to cut a fucking fuckload of this.
No, I don't reckon. We're not that bad. So they go to the castle to use the phone and try and get their tire sorted. But little did they know, they were about to walk in to the annual Transylvanian Conference. So they're let into the castle by Riff Raff, and they meet the eccentric and very theatrical Transylvanians, including Riff Raff's sister, Magenta, who I also love. Yeah, the lips chick, and I fucking love her too. You're lucky. He's lucky. We're all lucky. Anyway, dancing Frank-N-Furter groupie.
You've seen it many times.
Oh, very many times. I remember getting reattached to it again when I was in grade 12, and I used to come home and watch it on VHS over and over again. So yeah, they meet Magenta, Riff Raff's sister, their tap dancing friend and Frank-N-Furter groupie, Columbia, the pansexual mad scientist and sweet transvestite himself, Frank-N-Furter, his creation, which is like a blonde muscle man who's called Rocky. So his name is Rocky Horror. And he was sort of like a Frankenstein creation made up of different parts and stuff. And we also then meet Columbia's current love interest, Eddie, who's also known as the delivery boy. He's played by Meatloaf. And his role.
Shut up!
Yeah, Meatloaf's in it.
Meatloaf.
So his role in it his role in the movie, in the story was he was the delivery boy who went and got the body parts for Frank-N-Furter to make Rocky. You don't see him doing that or anything. It's just sort of insinuated. So Brad and Janet are basically told there is nothing that can be done for them that night, so they're best to stay until morning. During the whole getting to know you meet Frank-N-Furter, comes down the lift and does a whole sweet transvestite song, tells them they can't fix their car tonight, why don't you come up to the lab and see what's on the slab? And it's Rocky, his creation. So he invites him up to see Rocky being born, basically. They turn the life switch on. And during that whole production where Rocky sort of becomes alive and whatnot, Eddie, who's Meatloaf, he's missing half a brain after Frankenfurter used it to make Rocky. He breaks out of deep freeze and he naturally bursts into song. Hot Patooey, Bless My Soul. And unfortunately for you, because I know you just said you love Meatloaf, it's probably my least favorite song, and I used to always fast forward through it. Hot Patooey, Bless My Soul. I really love that rock and roll. And anyway, so he's singing that, and Rocky's and riding around on a motorbike, and Rocky starts bopping to the music, which makes Frankenfurter jealous. So he kills Eddie with a pickaxe, which Columbia doesn't love because she's in love with Eddie.
Oh my God.
So that sort of sets off a sequence of events. And during the night, Brad and Janet are both seduced by Frankenfurter. They're sent to separate rooms, and Frankenfurter walks into, he goes into Janet's room dressed as Brad, and he goes into Brad's room dressed as Janet, and they both figure out it's him before anything happens, but they both give themselves over to his seductive ways and bonk. And they're virgins at this stage. Very good, straight-laced, not until they're married. There's literally, after that, a slew of musical performances, Brad and Janet losing their innocence, Dr. Scott, who was the person Brad and Janet were going to go see.
We're going to visit, yeah.
He also researches UFOs, and he appears at the castle searching for his nephew, who was Eddie. He received a letter off Eddie saying, I'm out of my head. Oh, hurry, or I might be dead. They must carry out their evil deeds. Yeah. When Eddie said he did, like I said, he knew he wasn't a good kid. So anyway, he turns up trying to find his nephew. And Frankenfurter knows that Dr. Scott is a UFOologist. I don't know if that's the right word, and gets suspicious on why he's there, and then blames the whole fact that Brad and Janet have turned up as a whole setup, like a sting operation. And so he uses his technology, the Medusa transfuser, to freeze them. So he pulls it down, they all turn to stone. And then he sets them all up on stage in stone and dresses them up in fucking suspenders and feather boas and shit like that, and then flicks the switch again where they become human, and he makes them all perform a musical number. So it's very much how I would probably go about shit. For Sky's funeral musical. And have them all stand to stone, popped on stage, right, you're on, Vinny, go.
Vinny would just do it because he loved and missed me. He wouldn't need to be frozen. He'd want to act out his part.
Riff Raff and Magenta.
We need to make a call to Drew Barrymore, though.
We do. We'll get into it. I've got connections.
Yeah. We're just slide into her DMs.
Slide into her DMs. You may have heard of us. You probably have. It's Stupid Bitches Say What.
We have a podcast.
Have we got an opportunity for you?
We love doing Grey Gardens, FYI.
We speak about it in the podcast. You may have heard it. I'm sure you have. So by this stage, Riff Raff and Magenta, they're over Frankenfurter's extreme lifestyle because he kind of treats them like the maid. Well, they are the maid and the servant of the house.
Sure, and he's psycho, so yeah.
And so he takes charge. They take charge, and they're saying, "Look, we're done. We're heading back to Transylvania." When after the show that Frankenfurter makes all the stone people do after they become alive again, Frank then performs his final number, I'm Going Home, which is also one of my favorite songs.
Of course it is.
It is. Whatever
you love
happens,
a swan song, don't you?
You love a good swan song. I do love a swan song.
Yes, so do I.
He then gets shot by Riff Raff, by this sort of weird sort of gun that looks like a pitchfork. Rocky then...
The hunchback shoots him. How poetic.
I know, but it's weird because when they come in after the whole performance, they're dressed in, like, I guess what they would call their space get-up. Magenta's hair, which is long and down, ends up being up like a big Marge Simpson beehive.
Sorry, I missed something. So they went to space because of the UFO guy. I missed that bit.
Okay. So they're actually all aliens anyway from Transylvania. So,
right.
Yeah, so gotcha. Frankenfurter, Riff Raff and all that, they're all aliens. They're having their Transylvanian conference, which is a galaxy, I think it is, and they come from the planet Transsexual in Transylvania. I'm just a sweet transvestite from Transsexual Transylvania. Hit it here.
And this guy who wrote it, who had this idea about Transylvanian aliens that were transsexual,
well, they're from
in
the
the
planet
70s.
Transsexual.
In the 70s, he put this story forward, and everyone loved it. Became a cult following.
Well, so the movie wasn't actually a massive hit at the beginning.
Far out there.
It is far out, and it was the 70s, so that would have had a bit of
psychedelics, baby.
Psychedelics. So Frank gets shot by Riff Raff. Traitorous bastard.
Sure.
And that's right. Yeah. So when they come in, so throughout the whole movie,
I think Frank was a little bit out of control at this point, I've got to say.
Well, look, Frank is power hungry and a control freak. I can relate.
Riff Raff obviously had his reasons.
Riff Raff was pissed. But when they come in after so the whole movie, they're dressed as the servants and whatnot. And then they come in after Frank-N-Furter's show and they're in their space outfits. The Hunchback's gone. The Hunch is gone.
Oh, so only anyway, on Earth he had the Hunchback as an alien.
Oh, they're still on Earth. They're still on Earth. But when he put on his space get up to say, Frank-N-Furter, it's all over. He comes in, the Hunch is gone. I don't know what happened. He shaved it off.
As you do, because those fuckers are easy to shave off.
Yeah, just one lump at a time. So he kills Frank. And then when Frank-N-Furter dies, Rocky, the muscle man, the blonde muscle man that Frank-N-Furter made to be his husband, basically, goes ape shit. He picks up Frank.
But he stabbed him. Didn't he stab him because he got jealous of him?
No, he stabbed and killed Eddie.
Oh, sorry. Right. Gotcha.
That's all right. And so he picks up Frank-N-Furter. He climbs this tower above the stage. And then he keeps getting shot at, but it's not killing him. It's not doing anything to him because he's not human.
Yeah.
Next minute, the tower then falls and takes Rocky to his death.
Oh.
Janet also all this, she ends up fucking Rocky, the lucky bitch.
Oh.
So the humans are then
Virgin Janet, who's
Janet
deflowered by the transvestite, fucks the Frankenstein.
Rocky, yeah. So it changes their whole fucking life. So it's basically, I guess when you look at it in that sense, it's kind of like a society thing. So, back in the 60s, everyone was very good housewife and didn't do anything and don't question your man and all this shit, and everything was straight-laced. And then when they're exposed to all these different opportunities and shit, they're like, actually,
their minds are broadened.
I'm enjoying this.
Yeah.
I quite like the peen and I want more than just one.
It's a metaphor for exploring your sexual identity.
100%. So Rocky's now dead as well. Riff Raff says to the humans, Dr. Scott, Brad, and Janet, get out the castle. We're taking off. Where the castle is the spaceship. We're about to head back.
Okay.
We're about to head back to the moon-drenched shores of sweet Transylvania in the galaxy of sweet transsexual.
I was
going
to say it's not
Transylvania.
That's where they're at. It's called something else.
Well, no, they're on Earth at this stage. They're going back to the planet.
But they're from a different planet, which is Transsexualvania.
In the galaxy. No. So they're from the planet Transsexual in the galaxy of Transylvania.
Okay.
So it's like being in Earth in the Milky Way. They're going to Transsexual in Transylvania. Sure. So the heroes get out, and then the last scene is the camera sort of comes up and you're just looking down on them, bird's eye view, and they're all left crawling in the dirt and smog as the narrator concludes that the human race is equivalent to insects crawling on the planet's surface, lost in time, lost in space and meaning. And they play the song Superheroes at that stage too. And then it ends again with the red lips, and they do another rendition of science fiction.
Whoa.
So they don't end up together at the end, you might believe. Janet sees. So Janet sleeps with Frank-N-Furter after he seduces her. Then she feels all guilty and shit, and she runs out and she's like, "Where's Brad? I need to find Brad." And then she turns on a TV screen and it's a video of Brad's room, and Frankfurter and him have just done the deed and they're laying in bed having a cigarette. He's like, "Oh, come on, Brad. It wasn't all that bad, was it?" And shit like that. You would love it just for Tim Curry, trust me. He is fucking Frankenfurter.
And then so she goes and fucks the Rocky guy.
And then she fucks Rocky.
So what does Brad do? Does he go and fuck anyone else, or does he just?
No. He then sort of comes back. Like when they catch up, they end up finding Janet and Rocky in the bed. And there's a scene then, so it's like Frankfurter's going, "Rocky," and Brad's like, "Janet," and she's like, "Brad," and then it goes back to Rocky, Janet, Brad, Rocky. It's so good. So that was the movie. And the movie wasn't actually a massive hit during its normal play times. It just was a bit of a flop.
But the stage show was a massive hit, obviously.
The stage show was a hit to make it into a movie.
The movie.
Exactly.
Okay.
But
in England, it was a hit.
Yes. And then they made the American movie and it didn't really take off. But what they started doing was back then too, they used to have midnight sessions of movies. So they started playing midnight sessions
for the weirdos. Yeah.
Yeah. And it gained full fucking momentum. Maybe we should drop these at midnight. Maybe we'll get more momentum for our podcast.
For the weirdos.
For the weirdos. The free. Like that. People started attending the movie dressed as their favorite characters. They'd all go there, and then after a while of this happening, and people were doing this like every week and shit like that.
Yeah, I love that. I love when things like spur such a a following that people are so obsessed with stuff like this. Yeah. It's like Harry Potter. Me and my sister, like, we actually, I don't think we ever did a midnight showing, but we were going to see a midnight showing of like Harry Potter because it was so
and Star Wars and stuff like that too. You get all that stuff. So people would start dressing as their favorite characters and going and attending, and after a while people would then be going up from the audience as their character and actually acting out the movie on the stage in front of the screen, and it was called they were called shadowcasters. And then that became a thing. So you'd go and then the Rockies would put up their hand and someone would become the Rocky of the night and we'd be able to go up and act out their whole part during the movie as the movie was playing in front of it.
That's cool. I love that.
And then the rest of the audience then get involved with all this pre-planned shenanigans. So this is what I was saying about before, when we watch it, we should actually do this. So here's some of the things that they would do if you attended the late night show. So if it's your first time attending, you'd get pulled on stage as a virgin. You'd get a virgin attending the show. You'd get heavily teased by everyone. You'd get a mark on your forehead of a V, all in good fun, of course. But you would then be sort of like, you'd get a little part in the show as well. There's cues in the movie that people used to use to start screaming back at the screen. So while it was playing, so like you were saying with Dirty Dancing, with people yelling shit out at the screen, like, "Don't put baby in the corner," or whatever. That also happened with Rocky Horror. But it gets pretty brutal. So, for instance, like when Brad appears on screen at any stage, you just scream, "Asshole." When Janet appears on the screen, you scream, "Slut." But if she's still a virgin when she appears on the screen, you scream out "slut," and then the response would be, "She's not a slut yet." When Janet, like, and other things, like when Janet uses a newspaper to cover her hair from the rain when they're going to look for the phone, you'd scream out, "Get an umbrella, you cheap bitch." And then they replace some of the lyrics as well. And there's a whole script that you can actually print out and actually have with you so you know what to say during the movie. So during the science fiction song, the line is, "But when worlds collide, said George Powell to his bride, I'm gonna give you some terrible thrills." But what you sing is, "But when tits collide, said George Powell to his bride, I'm gonna give you some joints and some pills." So that type of stuff. And it's for every single song, like these word replaces, but everyone in the audience is screaming and singing this. So you can imagine how fucking electric the atmosphere is. And as I said, there's basically a full.
So this is the 70s, right? So this is like
and this would be into the 80s and all that now, and they still do midnight screenings of the Rocky Horror Picture Show. I don't know if it's every week or on Halloween and stuff like that now. But yeah, there's
But in the US, like you couldn't really go and see an Australian version of the Rocky Horror Picture Show and be able to have that script and scream it all out because people wouldn't know it, right?
I think it's pretty much well known within the culthood that this is the standard that would come across. Like you wouldn't go and see it at 7:00 in a special screening at Birch, Carroll and Coyle or Event Cinemas, and people going slut like that. But if they had it at like the Regent or what
or the is it Fendi? What was the other one that they used?
Dendy.
Dendy. The Dendy.
Yeah.
The Dendy.
Yeah, if you saw it somewhere like that,
yeah,
they would totally be like, she's not a slut yet.
Get an umbrella, you cheap bitch.
A cheap bitch. It's our kind of movie environment, really. It's all in very good fun, but also very, very not safe for work.
Oh my God, I totally want to go to the yell out version. I want to go to the yell out version.
Or even still, we could just do it at home. When you're up here, we'll all watch it. We'll have the script in front of us and we'll just scream it out.
Yeah, totally.
So yeah.
Gonna have to ease Tyler into that one, I think.
Yeah. Vinny will be in there. Slush. Asshole.
Umbrella.
Yeah. Get your brolly. Get a brolly, you cheap bitch. So yeah, besides all the amazingness that I've just gone through, their soundtrack is also fucking amazing. I have it on CD. I have it on vinyl. I actually went into one of the old record stores where you could flip through the hundreds and thousands of vinyls, and I found the original release vinyl of it, and it's in red, the actual record in this sort of. I'm sure I had the cassette somewhere, but who the fuck knows where that is now. I had it on VHS. Yeah, a cassette. It's probably tangled up in some fucking tape player. I still have the DVD. It has, as I'd mentioned already, Tim Curry, and I was obsessed with Tim Curry after seeing the movie. Anytime I saw him in another film or a TV show after that, I was just so happy. I was like, oh my God, it's Tim. He was in Annie.
Great actor.
He was in Annie, which I loved as a child. He was in Home Alone 2. He was even in Roseanne. And I know I keep bringing up Roseanne, and she's a terrible person for her recent statements and maybe a terrible person back when she did it, but I fucking love that TV show.
But it is a great show, yeah.
I think he was in Charlie's Angels, and it was also in those movies that were spoofs of other flicks like Scary Movie 2 and Loaded Weapon 1 and stuff like that.
There's
but my love for
heaps of other films as well like that.
Where he's always a sort of like a side character,
yeah.
but an important side character. But my love for him did start in Rocky Horror. That is faux show. I used to also do a mean fucking Frankenfurter when I was younger, so thanks for that, Tim. For obvious reasons, the LGBT community formed a huge part of the cult following.
Of course, yeah.
It embraced, as you said, sexual liberation, which the 70s was all about, but the 80s weren't that friendly for the gays, or the 90s for that matter, or even really the noughties, but you know what I mean. Glee did a version of it. Did you know that?
I can't recall the Glee version, actually.
Glee did Rocky Horror. But it was kind of annoying because they had Mercedes do Frankenfurter, which she did in a great job, but Frankenfurter's a fucking transvestite.
Yeah.
They did a revamp of it recently, like 5 years ago, with trans performer Laverne Cox as Frank.
Oh, okay.
Good. It was kind of like a TV special. A prequel to it got released afterwards called Shock Treatment. Mm-hmm. I've never seen it. I've only ever seen the preview for it, which used to be at the beginning of the VHS for Rocky Horror. And of course, the stage show, which still continues to tour nearly 50 years after it was first released. And now I just want to watch the movie, or at least drunkenly sing to the soundtrack again, including Dirty Dancing. The songs are that fucking good in both of those movies. I love them both forever and fucking ever.
Yeah, I love listening to Dirty Dancing from the very beginning because it's all in like chronological order. So all the songs on that album are based on where they appear in the film.
In the movie.
And when I watched with Tyler was like, how do you know all the words like to all these songs? Because I was like sitting there just like quietly singing because I didn't want to like, spook him too much because it was like a whole thing where he was even just ready to watch it.
So he's watching it and you're just sort of humming.
And I'm just like quietly like singing the words, and he's like, "How the fuck do you know all these songs?" I was like, "You don't understand. This soundtrack is like a major chunk of my childhood."
And you're having to hold it in as well to not spook him.
I know.
You're like, you'll get there, Pet.
He was like, "I thought there would be more Dirty Dancing." I was like, "What do you mean? There was loads
it was
of dirty
dancing for the 60s.
Yeah. Thanks for listening to Stupid Bitches Say What. We hope you enjoyed our ramblings in this week's episode. Don't forget, if you like what you hear, tell your mates and follow our socials and YouTube channel, Stupid B Say What.
Also, we'd love to hear from you. So email us at stupidbsaywhat@gmail.com for any feedback, topic suggestions, or just general chit-chat. Join us next week for our chats about back in time.
You stupid bitches.
You stupid bitches. Bye.
No.
Acapella. Now I've had the time of my life. No, I never felt like this before. Yes, I swear it's the truth. And I owe it all to you.
'Cause I've had the time of my life, and I owe it all to you. We are so bad at the joint version. Let's play it back to it. Oh, we can't exit, can you? I want to hear how bad it's.
Let's stop it and we'll hang on, I'll stop the recording.
Maybe we'll re-record it again if we have to. It's gonna be really.
Yeah, that stupid bitch. He's a stupid bitch. What a stupid bitch. That stupid bitch.